shouldn't be with you.
The wind blew strong as we climbed the trail, covering the mesa with sand that sifted around our legs and shut out the sky. Since it was not possible to find our way back, we took shelter among some rocks. We stayed there until nightfall. Then the wind lessened and the moon came out, and by its light we reached the village. The huts looked like ghosts in the cold light. As we neared them, I heard a strange sound like that of running feet. I thought that it was a sound made by the wind. But when we came closer, I saw a dozen of wild dogs scurrying around through the huts. They ran from us, snarling as they went. The pack must have slunk into the village soon after we left, for it had gorged itself upon the abalone we had not taken. It had gone everywhere searching out food, and Ramo and I had to look hard to find enough for our supper. While we ate beside a small fire, I could hear the dogs on the hill not far away, and through the night their howls came to me on the wind. But when the sun rose and I went out of the hut, the pack trotted off towards its lair, which was on the north side of the island, in a large cave. That day we spent gathering food. The wind blew and the waves crashed against the shore so that we could not go out on the rocks. I gathered gull eggs on the cliff, and Ramo speared a string of small fish in one of the tide pools. He brought them home, walking proudly with the string over his back. He felt that, in this way, had made up for the trouble he had caused. With the seeds I had gathered in a ravine, we had a plentiful meal, although I had cooked it on a hat rock. My balls were at the bottom of the sea. The wild dogs came again that night. Drawn by the scent of fish, they sat on the hill, barking and growling at each other. To see the light from the fire shining in their eyes. At dawn they left. The ocean was calm on this day, and we were able to hunt abalone among the rock. From seaweed we wove a rough basket, which we filled before the sun was overhead. On the way home, carrying the abalone between us, Ramo and I stopped on the cliff. The air was clear, and we could look far out to the sea in the direction the ship had gone. "Will it come back today?" Ramo asked. "It may," I answered him, though I did not think so. "More likely it will come after many suns, for the country where it has gone is far off." Ramo looked up at me. His black eyes shone. "I do not care if the ship never comes," he says. "Why do you say this?" I asked him. Ramo thought, making a hole in the earth with the point of his spear. "Why?" I asked again. "Because I like it here with you," he said. "It is more him than when the others were here. Tomorrow I am going to where things are hidden and bring one back to Coral Cove. We will use it to fish in and to go looking around the island. They are too heavy for you to put into the water. You will see." Ramo threw out his chest. Around his neck was a string of sea elephant teeth, which someone had left behind. It was much too large for him, and the teeth were broken, but they rattled as he struck the spear down between us. "You forget that I am the son of Chawik," he said. "I do not forget," I answered, "but you are a small son. Some day you will be tall and strong, and then you will be able to handle a big canoe." "I am the son of Chawik," he said again, and as he spoke his eyes suddenly grew large. "I am his son, and since he is dead, I have taken his place. I am now chief of Galasat. All my wishes must be obeyed. But first you must become a man. As is the custom, therefore, I will have to whip you with a switch of nettles and then tie you to a red ant hill." Ramo grew pale. He had seen the rights of manhood given in our tribe and remembered them. Quickly I said, "Since there are no men to give the rights, perhaps you will not have to undergo the nettles and the ants, Chief Ramo." "I do not know if this name suits me," he said, smiling. He tossed his spear at a passing gull. "I will think of something better." I watched him stride off to get the spear, a little boy with thin arms and legs like sticks, wearing a big string of sea elephant teeth. Now that he had become chief of Galasat, I would have even more trouble with him, but I wanted to run after him and take him in my arms. "I have thought of a name," he said when he came back. "What is it?" I asked solemnly. I am Chief Tanyositlopai. That is a very long name and hard to say." "You will soon learn," Chief Tanyositlopai said. I had no thought of letting Chief Tanyositlopai go alone to the place where the canoes were hidden, but the next morning when I awoke, I found that Ramo was not in the hut. He was not outside either, and I knew then that he had gone up in the dark and left by himself. I was frightened. I thought of all that might befall him. He had climbed down the kelp rope once before, but he would have trouble pushing even the smallest of the canoes off the rocks. And if he did get one afloat without hurting himself, would he be able to paddle around the sandpits where the tides ran fast? Thinking of these dangers, I started off to overtake him. I had not gone far along the trail before I began to wonder if I should not let him go to the cliff by himself. No way of telling when the ship would come back for us. Until it did, we were alone upon this island. Ramo, therefore, would have to become a man sooner than if we were alone, since I would need his help in many ways. Suddenly, I turned around and took the trail towards Coral Cove. If Ramo could put the canoe in the water and get through the tides that raced around the sandpits, he would reach the harbor when the sun was tall in the sky. I would be waiting on the beach, for what was the fun of a voyage if no one would dare to greet him? I put Ramo out of my mind as I searched the rocks for mussels. I thought of the food we would need to gather and how best to protect it from the wild dogs when we were not in the village. I thought also of the ship. I tried to remember what Matasaip had said to me. For the first time, I began to wonder if the ship would ever return. I wondered about this as I pried the shells off the rock. I would stop and look fearfully at the empty sea that stretched away farther than my eyes could reach. The sun moved higher. There was no sign of Ramo. I began to feel uneasy. The basket was filled, and I carried it up the mesa. From here I looked down on the harbor and farther on along the coast to the spit that thrust out like a fishhook into the ocean. I could see the small waves sliding up the sand and beyond them a curving line of foam where the currents raced. I waited on the mesa until the sun was overhead. Then I hurried back to the village, hoping that Ramo might have come back while I was gone. The hut was empty. Quickly, I dug a hole for the shellfish, rolled a heavy stone over the opening to protect them from the wild dogs, and started off towards the south part of the island. Two nails led there, one on each side of a long sand dune. On the trail I was traveling, and, thinking that he might be coming back out of the sight along the other one, I called to him as I ran. I heard no answer, but I did hear, far off, the barking of dogs. The barking grew louder as I came closer to the cliff. It would die away and after a short silence start up again. The sound came from the opposite side of the dunes, and leaving the trail I climbed upward through the sand to its top. A short distance beyond the dune, near the cliff, I saw the pack of wild dogs. There were many of them and they were moving around in a circle. In the middle of the circle was Ramo. He was lying on his back and had a deep wound in his throat. He lay very still. When I picked him up, I knew that he was dead. There were other wounds on his body from the teeth of the wild dogs. He had been dead a long time, and from his footsteps on the earth, I could see that he had never reached the cliff. Dogs lay on the ground not far from him, and in the side of one of them was his broken spear. I carried Ramo back to the village, reaching it when the sun was far down. The dogs followed me all the way, but when I had laid him down in the hut and came out with a club in my hand, they trotted off to a low hill. A big gray dog with long curling hair and yellow eyes was their leader, and he went last. It was growing dark, but I followed them up the hill. Slowly they retreated in front of me, not making a sound. I followed them across two hills and a small valley to a third hill, whose face was a ledged rock. At one end of the ledge was a cave. One by one the dogs went into it. The mouth of the cave was too wide and high to fill with rocks. I gathered brush and made a fire, thinking that I would push it back into the cave. Through the night I would feed it and push it farther and farther back. There was not enough brush for this. When the moon rose, I left the cave and went off through the valley over the 3 hills to my home. All night I sat there with the body of my brother and did not sleep. I vowed that someday I would go back and kill the wild dogs in the cave. I would kill all of them. I thought of how I would do it, but mostly I thought of Ramo, my brother. And now, chapter 9.